Welcome back to the channel The Coin Empire, where we explore the fascinating world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and the unbelievable stories behind ordinary-looking pocket change that can sometimes be worth a life-changing fortune. And today's story might be one of the most surprising discoveries you could ever imagine, because we are talking about a small copper coin that many people have seen countless times, yet few realize the incredible potential value hiding within it: the 1968 D1 cent coin from the United States, which under certain rare circumstances and minting mistakes could be valued as high as $94 million by collectors who are constantly searching for the rarest examples of error coins ever produced. And what makes this particular penny so fascinating is not just the year or the mint mark, but the unusual combinations of minting errors, die varieties, striking anomalies, and extremely rare production mistakes that may have occurred during its creation. At the Denver Mint, because in 1968 the United States Mint was producing billions of pennies for circulation, and when production happens at such massive scale, even the smallest mechanical issues or human errors can lead to coins that are dramatically different from the standard design. And sometimes those rare mistakes slip past inspectors and enter circulation, where they remain hidden for decades until a sharp-eyed collector discovers something unusual about the coin. And the 1968 D penny is especially interesting because it was struck during a transitional era of coin production when the mint was updating equipment, changing die preparation techniques, and increasing production speeds to meet demand, and these factors sometimes created coins with doubled dies, off-center strikes, wrong planchets, die cracks, cuds, repunched mint marks, and even dramatic misalignments that could make a seemingly common coin incredibly rare and valuable, and one of the most talked about possibilities surrounding the legendary $94 million 1968 D penny is the chance that a unique mint error may have been produced when a die with severe doubling struck a coin multiple times, creating dramatic distortion in the lettering and date, a phenomenon known to collectors as a double die error, where design elements such as the word liberty, the motto "I in God we trust," or the numbers in the date appear thickened, shifted, or duplicated because the die itself carried a doubled image during the hubbing process. And when this happens, the resulting coin becomes an instant rarity, especially if the doubling is strong and clearly visible without magnification. And another possibility that drives collectors into excitement is the chance of a wrong planchet error, where a 1968 D penny might have been struck on a planchet intended for another denomination, or even another metal composition. For example, if a copper penny design was accidentally struck on a silver dime planchet, or a foreign blank, the weight, color, and dimensions would be completely different from normal pennies, making the coin extremely unusual and highly collectible. And these types of mint errors have historically sold for extraordinary amounts because they represent a unique moment in minting history where something went unexpectedly wrong in the production line. And beyond planchet errors, collectors also look carefully for off-center strikes, which occur when the blank coin is not perfectly aligned inside the collar during the strike, resulting in a design that appears partially missing while the remaining portion is sharply impressed. And if the date and mint mark remain visible while the strike is dramatically off-center, the value of the coin can skyrocket, since collectors prize dramatic visual errors that clearly show the minting mistake. And the 1968 D penny could also potentially feature a rare die cap error, where a coin becomes stuck on the die and continues striking additional blanks, causing it to gradually deform into a cap-like shape, and coins produced during such events can have extremely unusual shapes and distorted designs, making them highly sought after by error coin collectors around the world. And then there is the fascinating possibility of a broad strike error, which happens when the coin is struck outside of the retaining collar, allowing the metal to expand outward, creating a larger than normal coin with flattened rims and stretched details. And when such a coin still carries the Denver Mint mark and the 1968 date, it becomes a unique piece of numismatic history that collectors would eagerly compete to acquire. And another feature that can make the 1968 D penny incredibly valuable is the presence of major die cracks or cuds, where pieces of the die break away during production, leaving raised irregular shapes on the coin's surface that look like blobs of extra metal attached to the design. And while minor die cracks are relatively common, a large cud covering part of the date or lettering can transform a normal penny into a highly collectible rarity. And sometimes these cracks grow larger as the die continues striking coins, leading to progressively more dramatic errors which collectors love to track and study. And in addition to these mechanical mistakes, there is also the intriguing chance of a misaligned die strike where the obverse and reverse of the coin are not perfectly centered relative to each other, causing the design on one side to appear shifted when compared to the other. And this type of alignment error is particularly interesting to collectors because it demonstrates the complex machinery involved in coin production and the small tolerances that must be maintained to produce perfect coins. And even subtle differences in alignment can dramatically increase the desirability of an otherwise ordinary coin. And when collectors imagine the legendary $94 million 1968 penny, they often speculate that such a coin might combine several of these rare errors at once, such as a double die obverse paired with an off-center strike and perhaps a dramatic die crack or wrong planchet, creating a one-of-a-kind coin that represents an extraordinary accident during the minting process. And in the world of rare coin collecting, uniqueness is often the most valuable trait of all, because when only one example exists, collectors compete fiercely to own it, and auction prices can climb to astonishing levels when wealthy collectors and investors recognize that they may never see another coin like it again. And this is why the idea of a $94 million penny continues to capture the imagination of collectors everywhere, because it represents the possibility that something extraordinary could still be hiding in everyday pocket change. And the design of the 1968 penny itself adds to the story, since it features the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln created by Victor David Brenner, which has appeared on the penny since 1909, with Lincoln's profile facing right and the inscriptions "I in God We Trust" above his head, "Liberty" to the left, and the date along with the small D mint mark indicating production at the Denver Mint to the right, while the reverse displays the classic wheat ears design that had been used for decades before later changes to the penny's appearance. And even though millions of these coins were produced, most of them are worth only a few cents today unless they display extraordinary preservation or a dramatic minting error, which is exactly why collectors spend hours examining rolls of pennies under magnification, searching for unusual characteristics that might reveal a rare variety or mistake. And sometimes these discoveries happen in the most unexpected places, such as old piggy banks, inherited coin jars, estate collections, or even loose change received at a store. And stories of lucky collectors finding rare coins worth thousands, or even millions of dollars continue to inspire new enthusiasts to join the hobby. And the potential value of a rare 1968 penny also depends heavily on its condition, because coins that have remained uncirculated with sharp details and original luster are far more desirable than heavily worn examples. And professional grading services evaluate such coins using precise scales that measure the quality of the strike, surface preservation, and overall eye appeal. And if a coin displaying a major mint error were also preserved in near-perfect condition, the combination of rarity and quality could push its value to astonishing heights. And while a $94 million price might sound unbelievable, it reflects the extreme potential that collectors imagine when discussing the rarest possible mint errors. And these stories remind us that even the smallest coin can carry an incredible history within it, shaped by the powerful presses of the mint and the unpredictable moments when machinery, metal, and human oversight combined to produce something truly unique. And this is why the humble 1968 penny continues to fascinate collectors around the world, because somewhere out there a rare example with extraordinary errors might still exist, waiting to be discovered, perhaps hidden in a forgotten jar of change or resting quietly in someone's collection without them realizing its true significance. And that possibility is what makes coin collecting such an exciting adventure, because every coin has a story and every discovery has the potential to change someone's life forever. Next, 1982 1-cent coin. Today we are diving into one of the most mysterious and exciting pennies ever discussed by collectors, a small coin that many people might overlook but which could potentially be worth an astonishing $90 million under the right circumstances, the 1982 1-cent coin from the United States. A coin that sits at the center of one of the most confusing and fascinating years in the entire history of American coin production, because 1982 was the year when the United States Mint made a historic change in the metal composition of the penny, moving away from the traditional copper alloy that had been used for decades and switching to a copper-plated zinc planchet to reduce production costs. And during this chaotic transitional period, several different varieties of pennies were struck, including large date and small date versions, coins struck in copper and coins struck in zinc, and coins produced at different mint facilities such as Philadelphia and Denver. And because these changes happened while billions of pennies were being produced, the possibility for rare minting errors and unexpected combinations increased dramatically, creating a perfect environment for extremely rare coins to appear. And the 1982 D penny has become legendary among collectors because Denver produced only certain officially recognized varieties during that year. But rumors and discoveries have suggested that unusual minting events may have occurred that resulted in coins which technically should not exist. And when collectors discover a coin that contradicts the expected production records, it instantly becomes one of the most valuable possibilities in the hobby. Because rarity combined with historical mystery is what drives collectors and investors to pay extraordinary prices. And the idea of a $90 million 1982 D penny comes from the possibility that a unique example might exist with a combination of mint errors, transitional metal composition, and rare die varieties that make it completely unlike ordinary coins. And to understand why collectors are so excited about this penny, we need to understand the dramatic transition that occurred in 1982 when the mint moved from the traditional bronze composition of 95% copper and 5% zinc to a new core made mostly of zinc with a thin copper coating. And because both types were produced during the same year, there are multiple known varieties, including large date copper, small date copper, large date zinc, and small date zinc coins. But the Denver Mint was only expected to produce certain combinations, which means if an unexpected variety appears, such as a small date copper coin from Denver, it becomes an extremely rare transitional error that could be worth a fortune. And collectors study these differences carefully because the shapes of the numbers and the date reveal which variety the coin belongs to. For example, the large date version has thicker, more rounded numbers, while the small date version has slimmer, sharper digits with a distinctive shape to the number 2. And even tiny differences like this can turn a 1-cent coin into a priceless collectible when the metal composition also differs from what the mint records suggest should exist. And this is why some collectors believe that a legendary 1982 D penny could exist that was accidentally struck on the wrong type of planchet during the transition between copper and zinc production, creating a coin that technically should never have been made. And if such a coin also displayed dramatic mint errors, it could become one of the most valuable pennies ever discovered. And one of the most famous possibilities involves a transitional error where a copper planchet left over from earlier production might have been fed into the presses at the Denver Mint after the switch to zinc blanks had already begun. And if that blank was struck using the small date die intended for zinc pennies, it would create a small date copper 1982 D coin, which collectors consider one of the rarest potential varieties imaginable, because Denver officially produced small date pennies only in zinc, meaning a copper version would represent a minting mistake during the metal transition. And collectors often weigh such coins carefully because copper pennies from earlier years weigh about 3.11 grams while the newer zinc pennies weigh about 2.5 grams, and a coin that matches the small date design but carries the heavier copper weight would immediately raise excitement among experts. And if such a coin were discovered in pristine condition with strong strike details and brilliant original surfaces, the value could climb to extraordinary levels as collectors compete to own what might be the only known example of its kind. And beyond the transitional metal possibilities, there are many other mint errors that could transform a 1982 D penny into a treasure worth millions, including double die errors where the design elements appear duplicated because the die received multiple impressions during the hubbing process, creating visible doubling in the date, the word liberty, or the national motto "I in God we trust." And when doubling is strong enough to be seen without magnification, collectors consider it highly desirable because it clearly demonstrates a mistake during the die creation stage rather than simple mechanical vibration during the strike, and a dramatic doubled die combined with a transitional metal composition would create a coin so unique that collectors around the world would likely compete fiercely to acquire it, pushing the price higher and higher at auction. And another fascinating possibility involves an off-center strike where the blank coin was not properly aligned inside the collar when the dies came together, leaving part of the design missing while the remaining section shows a perfectly struck image. And if the date and mint mark remain visible on such a coin, collectors value it much more highly because the identity of the coin can still be confirmed, and dramatic off-center coins showing 50% or more displacement are especially prized because they clearly reveal the minting mistake in a visually striking way. And the 1982 D penny could also feature a broad strike error where the coin was struck without the restraining collar that normally keeps the metal confined, allowing it to expand outward and become larger than normal with flattened rims, and broad-struck coins sometimes display stretched lettering and distorted designs which make them fascinating to study, and collectors enjoy seeing how the metal flowed under pressure when the collar failed to contain it. And another rare and dramatic error involves a die cap where a coin becomes stuck to one of the dies and continues striking additional blanks, gradually forming a hollow cap shape as the metal stretches and folds over time. And coins produced during such events often have strange, distorted designs and unique shapes that make them instantly recognizable as minting accidents. And a die-cap 1982 D penny with the transitional copper composition would be an extraordinary combination that could capture the attention of the entire numismatic world. And there are also errors involving repunched mint marks where the small d mint mark may appear doubled or slightly shifted because it was punched into the die more than once during preparation. And while this technique was being phased out around that time, it still occasionally produced interesting varieties that collectors enjoy studying, and even minor variations in the position or shape of the mint mark can add significant value when combined with other unusual characteristics. And die cracks are another possibility where the die develops fractures after striking thousands of coins, causing raised lines or irregular shapes to appear on the coin's surface where metal flows into the cracked areas of the die, and in extreme cases a piece of the die can break away entirely, creating what collectors call a cud, which appears as a raised blob of metal usually along the edge of the coin where the die has lost a chunk of its surface. And while small die cracks are common, a large cud covering part of the date or lettering can turn an ordinary coin into a highly collectible error piece. And some collectors believe that the legendary $90 million 1982 D penny could involve a massive cud combined with other errors, creating a one-of-a-kind appearance unlike any other penny ever produced. And misaligned die strikes are another possibility where the obverse and reverse designs are not perfectly centered relative to each other, sometimes causing the rim to appear thicker on one side or part of the design to shift unexpectedly. And these errors provide insight into the complex mechanics of coin presses where alignment must remain extremely precise even as millions of coins are produced every day, and when something goes slightly wrong, the resulting coin becomes a snapshot of that mechanical moment frozen in metal. And collectors cherish these pieces because they reveal the hidden process behind coin production that most people never see. And the story of the 1982 D penny is especially exciting because the year itself already contains multiple recognized varieties, which means collectors are constantly examining coins from that year hoping to discover something new that has never been documented before. And many famous rare coins were discovered decades after they were minted simply because someone decided to look closely at a coin that others had ignored. And this is why enthusiasts search through rolls of pennies, jars of spare change, and old collections inherited from relatives, because any one of those coins might contain a rare variety that has gone unnoticed. Next, 2006 1-cent coin. Used today, we are diving into the fascinating mystery of a modern coin that many people have seen countless times, yet very few realize could potentially be worth an astonishing $88 million under the right circumstances. The 2006 1-cent coin from the United States. A coin that at first glance appears completely ordinary but which holds the potential for extraordinary value when rare minting errors, production mistakes, and unusual striking conditions come together to create a unique collectible that captures the attention of collectors across the world, because in the world of numismatics the smallest mistake made during the minting process can transform a simple 1-cent coin into a historic rarity. And the 2006 penny is especially interesting because it was produced during an era of extremely high-speed coin production at the United States Mint, where billions of coins were struck every year using powerful modern machinery that operates with incredible precision, yet still occasionally produces unexpected anomalies. and when those anomalies escape quality control and enter circulation, they create opportunities for collectors to discover rare treasures hiding in plain sight. And the idea that a 2006 penny could reach a theoretical value of $88 million comes from the possibility that a coin might exist with a combination of dramatic mint errors, rare die varieties, and extraordinary preservation that make it completely unique among all other coins from that year, because collectors place immense value on coins that represent one-of-a-kind accidents in the minting process, especially when those accidents create visually striking or historically significant pieces. And to understand how such a coin might exist, we need to explore the many different types of mint errors that can occur during coin production. Beginning with one of the most famous and valuable categories known as the double die error, which occurs during the creation of the coin die itself when the design is impressed into the die more than once in slightly different positions, causing the finished coin struck by that die to display duplicated design elements such as doubled lettering in the words Liberty, or In God We Trust, or even doubling in the numbers of the date itself. And when this doubling is strong and clearly visible, collectors become extremely interested because it represents an error that originated during the die manufacturing process, rather than during the actual strike, meaning every coin produced from that die will carry the same distinctive doubling. And if a dramatic double die variety were discovered on a 2006 penny with sharp details and strong separation in the letters or numbers, it could instantly become one of the most famous varieties of the modern era, and collectors would compete intensely to own the best example available. And another fascinating possibility involves the concept of an off-center strike where the blank planchet was not properly positioned between the dies at the moment of impact, resulting in a coin where part of the design is missing and the remaining portion appears shifted toward one side, sometimes leaving a blank crescent-shaped area where the metal was never struck. And if such a coin still shows the date and mint mark clearly, it becomes especially valuable because collectors can identify exactly which coin it is while still enjoying the dramatic visual impact of the error. An extreme off-center strikes showing 50% or more displacement are particularly prized because they clearly demonstrate the moment when the minting machinery misfed the blank into the press, creating a coin that looks completely different from normal examples. And beyond off-center strikes, there is also the broad strike error, which occurs when the retaining collar that normally surrounds the coin during striking fails to hold the metal in place, allowing the planchet to spread outward under the enormous pressure of the dies and creating a coin that is wider than usual with flattened or missing rims. And broad-struck coins sometimes show stretched lettering and distorted designs, which make them fascinating examples of how metal behaves under extreme force. And if a 2006 penny experienced such an error while also displaying other unusual features, it could become a highly sought-after collectible. And then there is the dramatic die cap error, which happens when a struck coin becomes stuck to one of the dies and continues striking additional blanks as the press cycles again and again, gradually forming a hollow cap-shaped piece of metal as the repeated impacts stretch and distort the coin. And coins produced during such events often look incredibly unusual with curved shapes and smeared designs that make them instantly recognizable as minting accidents. And collectors love these types of errors because they reveal the dynamic and sometimes chaotic nature of coin production inside the mint. And another possibility that could make a 2006 penny incredibly valuable involves a wrong planchet error where the penny design was accidentally struck on a blank intended for a completely different coin, such as a dime, nickel, or even a foreign coin planchet that somehow entered the production line. And when this happens, the resulting coin may have the design of a penny but the size, weight, or color of another coin entirely, creating a piece that immediately attracts attention because it looks so unusual compared to normal pennies, and collectors carefully measure and weigh such coins to determine exactly what type of planchet was used. And wrong planchet errors are among the most exciting discoveries in modern coin collecting because they represent a rare breakdown in the sorting and feeding systems that normally keep different types of blanks separated during production. And if a 2006 penny were discovered struck on a planchet made from an unusual metal or intended for a different denomination, it could become one of the most famous mint errors of the modern era. And the possibilities do not stop there because die cracks are another common source of collectible variations, occurring when the hardened steel die begins to fracture after striking thousands or even millions of coins. allowing metal to flow into the cracks and create raised lines or irregular shapes on the surface of the coin, and in extreme cases pieces of the die can break away completely, creating what collectors call a cud, which appears as a raised blob of metal along the edge of the coin where the die has lost a section of its surface. And while small cracks may add modest value, a large cud covering part of the design can transform a common coin into a highly collectible error piece. And some collectors speculate that the legendary $88,002,006 penny might involve a massive cud combined with other rare errors, creating a truly unique coin unlike any other example known. And there are also fascinating possibilities involving misaligned dies where the upper and lower dies are not perfectly centered relative to each other, causing the design on one side of the coin to appear shifted or the rim to appear thicker on one side than the other. And while this error might sound minor, it actually reveals a great deal about the precision required in coin production, because even a tiny shift in alignment can dramatically change the appearance of the finished coin. And collectors appreciate these details because they highlight the complexity of the machinery that produces billions of coins every year. And the 2006 penny itself carries the familiar design that has appeared on American 1-cent coins for generations. Featuring the portrait of Abraham Lincoln created by Victor David Brenner on the obverse side with the inscriptions "I in God We Trust" above the president's head, "Liberty" to the left, and the date to the right, along with the mint mark when present, while the reverse side displays the Lincoln Memorial design introduced in 1959, showing the famous monument in Washington, D.C., along with the words "United States of America" and 1 cent. And although billions of these coins were produced in 2006, only a tiny fraction will ever display the unusual characteristics that collectors search for so carefully. And that rarity is what drives the potential value of extraordinary error coins, because when a coin appears that combines multiple rare features such as a dramatic doubled die, an off-center strike, a wrong planchet, and perfect uncirculated condition, the result can be a one-of-a-kind treasure that collectors across the world are eager to acquire. And the excitement surrounding the possibility of a rare 2006 penny also reminds us that many valuable coins have been discovered decades after they were minted, simply because someone decided to examine their change more closely than usual. And collectors often search through rolls of pennies from banks, old jars of coins stored in closets, and inherited collections passed down through families, hoping to find a rare variety that has been overlooked for years. And every once in a while those searches lead to incredible discoveries that make headlines in the numismatic community. And the idea that a small copper-plated coin could be worth tens of millions of dollars might sound unbelievable, but it reflects the passion and dedication of collectors who understand how rare and historically important certain minting errors can be, because each error coin tells a story about the moment when something unexpected happened inside the mint, a moment when machinery, metal, and human oversight combined to create a piece that was never meant to exist, and those moments are captured permanently in the metal. Last 2018 D1 cent coin. Today we are diving into the fascinating mystery of a modern penny that might look completely ordinary yet could potentially be worth an astonishing $84 million under the right circumstances. The 2018 D1 cent coin from the United States, a coin produced at the Denver Mint that millions of people have handled in daily transactions, yet very few realize that certain rare errors, production mistakes, and unique minting circumstances could transform one of these simple copper-plated coins into one of the most valuable modern pennies ever imagined. Because in the world of coin collecting, even the smallest mistake made during the minting process can turn a common coin into a legendary rarity that collectors dream of discovering. And the 2018 D penny is particularly interesting because it was struck during an era of highly advanced minting technology where billions of coins are produced with incredible speed and precision. Yet despite this technological sophistication, unexpected minting anomalies still occur from time to time, and when those anomalies escape quality control and enter circulation, they become fascinating artifacts that reveal the hidden mechanical processes inside the mint. And collectors treasure these coins because they represent rare moments when the machinery, metal blanks, and dies involved in coin production did not behave exactly as intended, creating unusual variations that make the coin unique. And the idea that a 2018 D penny could theoretically reach a value of $84 million comes from the possibility that a single coin might exist with a remarkable combination of rare mint errors and exceptional preservation that sets it apart from every other penny produced that year, because collectors place enormous value on coins that are not only rare but also historically intriguing and visually dramatic. And when multiple types of minting mistakes appear on the same coin, the rarity increases exponentially, leading collectors and investors to compete intensely to own such a unique piece of numismatic history. And one of the most fascinating possibilities involves a double die error which occurs during the creation of the coin die itself, when the design is impressed more than once in slightly different positions, causing the finished coin struck by that die to display duplicated elements in the design, such as doubled lettering in the word liberty, or the phrase "I in God we trust," or even doubling in the numbers of the date. And when the doubling is strong enough to be clearly visible, collectors become extremely interested because this type of error originates during the die manufacturing stage rather than during the strike itself, meaning every coin struck from that die will carry the same unusual appearance. And if a dramatic double die variety were discovered on a 2018 D penny with sharp details and strong separation in the lettering, it could quickly become one of the most famous modern penny varieties known to collectors. And another exciting possibility that could increase the value dramatically is an off-center strike where the blank planchet was not perfectly aligned between the dies at the moment of striking, resulting in a coin where part of the design is missing while the remaining portion appears shifted toward one side, leaving a curved blank area that shows where the metal was never struck. And collectors especially prize off-center coins where the date and mint mark remain visible, because this allows the coin to be clearly identified while still displaying a dramatic minting error that makes it visually unique. And extreme off-center strikes that show 50% or more displacement are considered particularly impressive because they clearly demonstrate a moment when the automated feeding system inside the mint failed to position the planchet correctly before the dies came together with enormous pressure. And beyond off-center strikes, another fascinating error that could appear on a 2018 D penny is the broad strike, which happens when the retaining collar that normally surrounds the coin during the strike is missing or fails to engage properly, allowing the metal to expand outward beyond the normal diameter and producing a coin that appears wider than usual with flattened or missing rims. And broad-struck coins often show stretched or distorted lettering because the metal flowed freely under pressure without the collar to contain it, making them fascinating examples of how the minting process works under unusual conditions. And collectors enjoy studying these coins because they reveal how powerful the striking process is and how the metal reacts when the usual constraints are removed. And there is also the dramatic die cap error, which occurs when a struck coin becomes stuck to one of the dies and remains attached as the press continues operating, causing additional blanks to be struck beneath it while the stuck coin gradually forms a hollow cap shape due to repeated impacts and metal stretching. And coins produced during this unusual sequence often have strange shapes and distorted designs that make them immediately recognizable as minting accidents. And if such an error occurred with a 2018 D penny, the result could be a spectacular piece that collectors would eagerly seek to add to their collections. And another possibility involves a wrong planchet error where the design of a penny is accidentally struck on a blank intended for another denomination or even a foreign coin, creating a piece with unusual size, weight, or metal composition that instantly catches the attention of collectors, because when a penny design appears on a planchet meant for a different coin, the mismatch becomes obvious once the coin is weighed or measured. And such mistakes are highly prized because they represent rare breakdowns in the mint's quality control systems that normally keep different types of blanks separated. And if a 2018 D penny were discovered struck on an unusual metal or planchet type, it could become one of the most talked about mint errors of the modern era. And die cracks are another source of collectible variations that can occur when the hardened steel die begins to develop fractures after striking large numbers of coins, allowing metal from the planchet to flow into the cracks and create raised lines or irregular shapes on the surface of the finished coin, and in extreme cases pieces of the die can break away entirely, forming what collectors call a cud, which appears as a raised blob of metal usually along the edge of the coin where the die lost a section of its surface. And while small cracks are relatively common, a large cud covering part of the lettering or date can transform a simple penny into a rare and valuable collectible. And some collectors imagine that the legendary $84 million 2018 D penny might involve a massive cut combined with other dramatic errors, creating a one-of-a-kind appearance unlike any other coin produced that year. And there are also fascinating situations involving misaligned dies where the upper and lower dies are not perfectly centered relative to each other, causing the design to appear slightly shifted or the rim to appear thicker on one side of the coin than the other. And while these alignment errors might seem subtle, they provide valuable insight into the precision required in modern minting machinery, where even a tiny shift can create noticeable differences in the finished coin, and collectors appreciate these details because they help reveal the hidden complexity behind the production of billions of coins every year. And the 2018 D penny itself features the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse side, a design originally created by Victor David Brenner, which has appeared on the penny for more than a century, showing Lincoln facing right with the words "I in God we trust" above his head, Liberty to the left, and the date and mint mark to the right, indicating the coin was produced at the Denver Mint. While the reverse side displays the modern Union Shield design introduced in 2010, symbolizing the unity of the United States, with the shield bearing vertical stripes and a banner across the top displaying the national motto E Pluribus Unum, along with the words United States of America and 1 cent surrounding the design. And even though billions of these coins were produced in 2018, the overwhelming majority are worth only their face value unless they display extraordinary minting errors or exist in exceptionally high grades of preservation, because condition plays a major role in determining the value of any collectible coin. And coins that remain in pristine uncirculated condition with bright original luster and sharp design details are far more desirable than worn examples that have spent years circulating through pockets and cash registers and professional grading services. Evaluate coins according to strict standards that measure strike quality, surface preservation, and overall eye appeal. And if a rare 2018 D-era coin were discovered in near-perfect condition, it could capture worldwide attention among collectors and investors alike, especially if the coin displayed multiple types of minting mistakes that make it completely unique. And the excitement surrounding the possibility of a rare 2018 D penny reminds us that many valuable coins have been discovered decades after they were minted simply because someone decided to examine their change more closely than usual. And collectors often search through rolls of pennies from banks, jars of spare change stored in homes, and old collections inherited from family members, hoping to uncover a hidden treasure.